I had this amazing interaction about, I guess it ended about half an hour ago. The details of the interaction are unimportant. In broad terms, it was the sort of interaction that one could very easily put into the bucket of someone was trying to manipulate me or blowing smoke up my ass. Salesman kind of interaction. And it was a wonderful interaction. And there's a lot of, in me, feelings of joy and of belonging and serendipity and simpatico. And all of these feelings are shared with a person who is very different than me in almost every way. And I found myself being completely candid and open, while at the same time, a little part of me was nagging, telling me how bullshit it was. And I kept it at bay. It was there. I was paying attention to it. I was aware of it. But it didn't take over. And what transpired was a really beautiful human interaction. And it started me thinking, like literally fucking everything starts me thinking. And I began to see that Christ almighty. Okay. Bluebirds. That's random. I just saw a bluebird fly across the neighbor's yard. I haven't seen a bluebird here ever. And I've got bluebird boxes up. I want bluebirds. Like all synchronicities, explaining it is at worst ineffective and at worst confusing and at best ineffective, so I won't try to explain it. Just know that me seeing that bluebird right as I completed the thought that I don't even remember what the thought, where I was in the thought, but in the middle of that thought, seeing that bird right there was the most significant synchronicity that I can remember. Anyway, don't doubt the technology, Dave. Don't be blown away by the technology. Shut up. I got to remember not to sit with the car running and talk to the camera. All right, so um, it led me to realize all the self doubt, all this nagging, all of this, oh, you're just being scammed, or this is just, what people do when they're annoyed with you and they're trying to get you out of whatever. They're trying to butter you up or whatever. Like, all of those thoughts were there. Um, but I didn't let them stop the conversation or the interaction. And there was literally nothing at stake. Um, I had already bought something. Um, and so there was no harm in this. And because there was no harm, and I could not see a way that I was harming her, I just let it go. Let those feelings hit and leave, while I dropped into what felt to be the most authentic me that would meet the needs of the interaction, if that makes any sense. Um, and that interaction happened. And the interaction will have ramifications throughout the rest of human history, honestly. Um, Not only will it affect her mood in whatever way it does. It's affected my mood, which will affect the way I interact with others, which will blah, blah, blah. And that ripple in the ocean, it does get lost as its amplitude decreases, but it contributes to the waves that hit the shore nonetheless. And I realized that wherever those voices come from that are telling me it's a scam, or that are telling me it's um, bullshit, or that she's crazy, or whatever, wherever they came from, um, they prevent us from being in the moment when we give in to them. You know, I don't have to think she's full of shit to prevent her from hurting me. I don't have to be afraid to be safe. I don't have to be anxious to protect myself. And then realizing that, anxiety, anger, fear, those are all sort of shortcuts to protective behavior, to protecting oneself. And that operating primarily in a mode dominated by those feelings prevents humans from communicating. And all that's really happening is that anger is having its million-year argument with itself again, or fear, it's endless conversation between these entities that inhabit us. And what little bit of studying in esoteric traditions I've done, and I think most of us would know of this thing, a magic circle or a protective circle or whatever. It occurred to me to model, as a useful model for this interaction, I could model all these forces, all these things trying to pull me out of the moment and put me into their mode, and model them as demons attempting to possess me. Now, I have no idea what her demons were doing for her. But I know that me drawing my circle around myself and protecting myself from my demons makes me invulnerable to hers. And may actually provide a space for her to take refuge in. That's egotistical as fuck and way beyond the scope of what I can know. But it still feels less wrong than assuming that were I to be guarded all the time, that would help her in any way or help me in any way. Believe that this is what people mean when they say be present in the conversation or live in the moment. It also must be pointed out that for me to come in with a default joy demon, right, an innocence demon, like trusting everything everywhere, it could still do harm. But their basic stance, no, it's not true. I was going to say that their basic stance is openness, but it's not necessarily. I mean, if I come in with this default attitude of joy and I try to filter everything through joy, then I will be just as detached from actual communication as I would be were it filtered through anger. The difference is that one of them is prettier than the other. And yeah, I mean, if I'm an addict and my joy is heroin and I'm talking to a heroin dealer, who is that helping, right? And this is one of the side benefits of, maybe not side benefit, I believe that when this is done, when humans can do this with each other, um, that we break out of the collective organism and create our own, or maybe we create our own emphasis within it, or whatever. Um, and when it's truly achieved, what ends up happening is that an entirely new consciousness is created that's um, made up of the constituents of the conversation. Um, and I'm thinking now to certain motivational speakers I've seen where um, their sort of power, or one way communicative power, um, doesn't really create an organization as much as it. And I mean, it doesn't. It creates an entity, but that entity is dominated by the personality of the speaker. There isn't much give and take in a motivational speaker. Um, I went to go see Jello Biafra talk years ago, and Jello Biafra is a master of it, but there was no room for anybody but Jello. Um, and by its very nature, it may not be something that um, maintains its stability as the number of participants increase. Um, I mean, what would an organization of 10 million Buddhas be like? There's that bluebird again. I don't know how useful this is for anyone. Our culture is so large and so powerful that it seems to be all that there is. It sets the expectations on our behavior, it sets the standards by which we're judged, it tells us what about us is valuable. Yet, we never recognize that it is an artificial thing that's constructed of our interactions. Artificial is the wrong word. It is a thing that is constructed of us. And it is so large as to be invisible. Maybe a better metaphor is to say that culture is to humans as water is to fish. And you can move from pond to pond as a fish. And that's where the metaphor breaks down, because the fish don't create the water. We create the culture. I don't know if this is useful to anyone. I would imagine it's frightening to many. But from where I sit right now, at 1:42 on the 18th of January 2023, from where I sit right now, solidifying the knowledge that it is okay to create one's own culture, moment by moment, interaction by interaction. Um, and that it can be done. And to a certain extent, we can choose it. It's pretty powerful, and it may not mean anything ultimately. It may entirely consist of just my personal coming to terms with being born into it and learning to be a more effective member of this thing that I really can never escape. And escape I would like to do. If I'm honest, I would like to escape. And I don't mean permanently. And the more I'm thinking about that statement, the more I realize I can escape it, and I do routinely with interactions with friends. And that may be why socializing, whatever the word is, that may be why friends are so damn important. Like real, true, salt of the earth friends, where what happens when you get together is that you crank up the old egregore of your friendship. Um, and it is durable enough, strong enough, and mature enough that it can resist being subsumed in the noise of the larger. And that's vital to me. But that takes skill, and it takes intention and effort and discomfort. But it's very much worth it. I would hope that everyone who ever lives has the best possible opportunity to develop it with other humans. Ideally, the more different they are from you, the better. The more we find in common with people who we imagine we have nothing in common, the more durable it becomes as an alternative. Here I'm getting preachy. I'm trying to avoid being preachy. There are no rules. Anxiety is a demon. Being in the moment and truly listening in conversation means drawing a protective circle around yourself such that the demons of anxiety and fear and culture have no power over the interaction between you and the person with whom you're communicating. Do this and there will be great joy. Enough of that shit.